ability to keep the talent that they already have, which further exacerbates the problem. Now, when we talk to people about how are you responding to this challenge, 47% expressed the view that they were going to have to significantly change their people practices. And people practices is really about how do you go about attracting talent to your organization. And again, 47% of the people, the employers surveyed, said that this was going to be a major focus for them. And about a quarter said that they were looking at implementing alternative work models. And one of the key things that was talked about in previous sessions was about engaging women in the workforce. And this was a significant factor when it came to bringing women who've gone off the grid in terms of employment back into employment. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So when the employers were asked in particular what type of people practices were you looking at, the highest was non-traditional people practices, and these specifically across the world was training and development. So about 23% said that they were going to increase investment in training and developing their own staff. And in addition to that, 13% of the employers surveyed across the world were looking at non-traditional methods of recruitment. And some of these methods also include actually bringing people back into the workforce who had moved out of the workforce. Also, some of it was extending the utilization of older, more experienced workers. So when the employers were surveyed about overcoming the talent shortages and talent sources, 13% said that they were looking at untapped talent pools. So these would typically be underutilized demographics within the country. It would also be looking at young people that were going to be trained for the appropriate types of job. So when we looked at overcoming the talent shortage, again, some of the work models that were being looked at, there was a significant increase in terms of utilization of a flexible workforce and what was called non-traditional workforce. And that could be retirees coming back into the workforce and providing consultancy type of services. So the general feeling was that you needed to look at more than the mainstream channels for attracting talent and re-engaging talent. Now we'll talk a little bit about how the survey turned out in Asia Pacific. And in Asia Pacific, we surveyed about 8,000 employers in 8 countries across the region. And again, the top 3 were not dissimilar to the global team. So the first and the highest was engineers. The second was, interestingly enough, was sales representatives. And we believe that's partly a function of the fact that most of the Asian economies are in growth mode, and the reality is that they're looking for more people on the ground to increase their market share. The third, skilled trades. So again, similar challenge to the global picture. And the fourth was accounting and finance professionals. Again, in the top 10, the list was quite similar. When we look at the challenge in Asia Pacific versus the global scenario, what you will see is pretty much the same trend, with the exception of 2003, where it peaked at 51%. This year, 2014 was at 45%. So significantly higher than the global average. And as you can see, the trend is generally climbing. We foresee that this trend will continue as there is a distinct difference or a crunch between what employers are looking for and what talent is available. And again, this was talked about with previous speakers about work where there is no talent and talent where there is no work. And this is the challenge for employers in terms of how do you address that gap moving forward. When we look here, what you see is the multicolored bar is the global average at 36%. And when we map the countries in Asia Pacific on the survey, with the exception of Singapore, every country in Asia Pacific was higher than the global average. So despite the fact that we are a relatively populous part, well, we are a populous part of the world, we still have a significant issue when we're addressing the gap between available talent versus talent that's employable. So when we looked at the challenges that employers were facing, the single highest factor in Asia Pacific, which is the bar that you see at the top, was technical skills. And this was an area in particular that was impacting specific jobs like engineering technicians. The second, about 28% of the people who were surveyed cited soft skills as being a significant barrier in terms of employability of the employment pool, 28%. When we looked at the impact of the talent shortages on the organizations, what was interesting in Asia Pac, the productivity was slightly higher than the global average. So organizations in Asia Pacific said that lack of talent was impacting their ability to service their clients, but much more so was their ability to be more productive. So when we looked at employers and how they're responding, 48% said that they were looking at people practices. So again, slightly higher than the global average. And 35% were looking at new talent sources. 29% were implementing alternative working models. And some of those include the movement of talent across geographies. So this was about being able to leverage talent within the region and moving them from one country to another. In the next slide, we talked about people practices, specifically which areas were employers looking for, and the highest was the non-traditional recruitment practices. So again, this is talking about importing talent where talent was not available, and we found that to be across two areas of the spectrum. One at the very, very highly technical skills, and the other was in very low skills. So it was quite interesting. This is the fact that the talent was most acutely felt, the shortage was most acutely felt was at the two opposite ends of the spectrum, highly skilled knowledge workers and low-level skilled workers. So when we asked about talent solutions, again we talked about one of the most significant increases, up from 5% in the previous year up to 8%, was reskilling of existing talent. Organizations were actually looking to hire people from within that didn't have the existing experience, but they were going to make more investment in terms of the training and development of individuals. And again, this is recognizing a concept called teachable fit. And that is, in a number of industries, you have basic skills that will enable you to transfer from one project, from one job to another, or from one industry to another, but with the emphasis being on the development of skills. So when we looked at the next slide, we looked at the overcoming the talent shortages in terms of the work models. One of the most common areas was looking at the pipeline of talent development, people coming into the organization. And what was more significant as well is more organizations, albeit very, very small, still only 5% of organizations were looking at doing it, but nevertheless, more organizations were now looking at how they were going to change the work structure to be able to make them a more attractive employer to non-traditional skill sets. And again, a significant component of that was to look at flexibility in work arrangements to attract more women back into the workforce, extending retirement age to maintain and retain older workers who may have exited out of the workforce. So I'm just going to take a few seconds to talk a little bit more about the Malaysia market, and then perhaps go into a few recommendations in terms of what we see as potentially
Sam, last 2 minutes. Sam, just 2 minutes more.
2 minutes. So now I have to speak very, very fast. So perhaps, if I may, I will move directly on to some of the recommendations that we're looking at for employers. And instead of the traditional three-legged stools, we've chosen 4. So the first is design new people practices. So be much more open and more flexible in terms of the types of people that you attract into the organizations. And again, ideally, it's looking at what can you teach people. So you may not get ready-made talent, but it's how much you're prepared to invest in terms of developing that talent. The second is adopting an agile mindset in terms of your workforce, talking about moving, job rotation, people moving from one part of the organization to another to try and tap into the existing talent. The third is having got the talent in the first place, retention is a significant challenge for us in Asia Pacific. So the third component was about how do you retain the talent once you actually have them within the organization, and it's about understanding their specific needs. Many organizations now have multi-generational, multi-ethnic, multi-gender workforces. So one size no longer fits all. You have to think about what is suitable for your particular population right across the board. And then the last and perhaps the most important part of it is fostering a learning environment where people are constantly upgrading their skills and an investment in reskilling, whether it's for hard skills, soft skills, or developmental support and coaching. So again, what we tried to do is boil it down to some 10 ways to boost agility. One is be nimble in terms of the mindset, whether it's the type of people that you attract within the organization, how you attract them. Engage, very, very important in terms of retaining your existing talent and nurturing them, so providing them with an environment where they can develop and grow. Flexibility is absolutely key when you're trying to retain non-traditional, or as one of the speakers has mentioned before, the level of education in the female population across Asia Pacific tends to be very high, but the workforce participation tends to be lower. And a lot of that is down to some women exiting the workforce and not being able to have a path back into the workforce. Some of those people are highly skilled, highly professional, but organizations need to get their head around how do they create an environment where they can re-engage. We talked about investing in employer brands, be social. The reality is the way work is done today is vastly different to what it was when I started off working. So what would have worked in the past is certainly different. I mean, one of the things in other surveys that we've discovered is in 10 years' time, more than half of the jobs will not exist today. So we are moving at the speed of the internet. So the reality is we have to think forward. Another thing is about partnering with schools and educational institutions. The reality is there is, in many areas of Asia Pacific, there is a certain element of finger pointing. The employers are saying to the educational institutes, you're not producing graduates that we need, and the educational institutes are saying you need to engage me more so I can produce the type of people that you need. So we're advocating a stronger level of engagement between the two. 9 is out of office. I think the reality of the world today is a lot of work is done outside the traditional 9 to 5 working in the office. So we're encouraging employers to be more creative in terms of how they engage the workforce and where the work is done. And then finally, it's creating a culture of teachable fit. And that requires a certain level of investment by the employers in terms of developing and teaching their existing talent, making the most out of what you have. There are other slides, and I'll be quite happy to talk to those, but in the interest of time, I think I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks so much for your wonderful insights. My next speaker on my left-hand side, Ms. Prapai Nunthawaj, who is a senior advisor for Petroleum Institute of Thailand, which is a leading TVET education center in Thailand. Over to you. She has joined Petroleum Institute of Thailand since 1991 and worked in various capacities in technical services, information services, public policies, and regulatory issues, and finally in HRD department. She has played a key role in coordination and networking in petroleum and petrochemical fields in Thailand. So I'm looking forward to she bringing in insights around a specific TVET skill set and how that skill set is being matched by the academia side. Thank you so much.
I would like to say thank you very much for the organizer UNESCO to give PTIT or Petroleum Institute of Thailand chance to share with you the private sector involvement for the innovation skill development in Thailand. What PTIT have done in the human resource development, First of all, I would like to show you a little bit on the Petroleum Institute of Thailand. We are a non-profit organization. We work in the field of the information, database and publication and education and training and policy matter, linking government and the industry together. We provide channel of dialogue among the government and the industry and public sector. What we have done in the past in the human resource development, we do have public in-house training course, conference and seminar, lecture and courses, and do the workshop. And what I would like to highlight to you is the practice school and college. We have we call PI-SHAPE and the V-SHAPE program. What is the SHAPE program? The SHAPE program is the chemical engineering practice school or college. So we first, at about 10 years ago, we set a program in the industry program, the productivity improvement and innovation creation training by learning concept of chemical engineering practice school, our PI-SHAPE. We do the program with the company PTT, global chemical company. On that program, we train people, the technicians who have hand-on experience for about 10 or 15 years, and they have some obstacle in communication with the engineer. So we would like to install them an engineering knowledge to be connect with the engineer. After that, 1 year later, we apply the concept to the college, the V-SHAPE program or Vocational Chemical Engineering Practice College. That is the government involvement in our program, the Ministry of Education, and it's a collaboration between the government and our industry, petroleum and petrochemical industry. What we have done, we would like to develop technicians with competency needed by industry. We found that technicians, after finish their vocational degree, is not competent to the needs of our industry. So we select the Maaptaput Technical College to be our pilot program. We involved in the 2-year high vocational certificate. We apply Constructionism and train in plants and project-based training over there. What we have done, we set the new curriculum with the college, and we use the meditation, and we add creative thinking, learning by doing, and dialogue to the program. So they train, first we have to train the trainer, the teacher in the college first. And after that, we have done together between the college, university, and the industry to have a new curriculum. So we have put a very tough curriculum to the college. In the design learning program, we have teaching about technical 35% in basic chemical, mass and energy balance, heat transfer, fluid mechanics, and unit operation. And in the technical area of about 50% in common knowledge in mechanical instrument and electrical. But we would like to provide them in something that needed from the industry, like safety, quality control, and English communication, and the learning tool. As you may know, in the oil and gas industry, technology has been changed very fast. So we would like them to learn by themselves. So in our training program, they learn from the real equipment, they learn from the industry expert, and they learn in plants. So we put them in plant about 8 months for 24 months altogether. So we put them in the learning that the industry needs, like firefighting, forklift training, something like that. And the next program, the Productivity Improvement and Innovative Creation, or the PICHEP program. This is in the plant program. As I mentioned to you, these technicians gain experience for 10 or 15 years. They hand-on technician with engineering and learning skill that we would like to give them. So PTT Chemical Group is our project launch. This is a 10-month training certificate and apply constructionism. We train in plants and we use the project-based learning. So they learn by learning skill and technical skill and project skill. Yes, sure. We do have meditation. We provide them the self-motivation and theory proving, problem-based learning, and and teamwork. So the design learning structure is the project-based learning, and they learn and thinking skill is about 25%, and the technical skill about 25%. In the learning and thinking skill, as I mentioned to you, they have to practice in meditation, micro world, Lego board, information searching, and yes, in Thailand we are very poor in English, so we push English in the program, and also mathematics, because they have to calculate, add, and engineer. So in the technical skill, they do the process, science, and calculation, mass and energy balance with transportation, heat transfer, unit operation, and measurement and control. For the project base, they have to plan and analyze and make presentation for their individual project. So what benefit from the PICHEP program? The company have benefit from the PICHEP program because they do have cost reduction, and they have the productivity improvement. They have their staff in learning organization. They have the competency staff. You can see that before they entering the program in a red skill, but after finish the program, they are in the yellow one. So not only the company, but also the learner themselves, that they gain experience in engineering. They have skill in thinking and learning skill. They work. They do the work improvement. You would like to know that what is the constructionism? The constructionism means the learner have to be thinking in systematic thinking, and after thinking they have to do, and after that they have to reflect. So it means that when they work, they have their purpose or objective, and then they have to plan, and after plan they take action, and they have to reflect to each other. So that is the cycle of learning. So they have recycle again and again, and then they do have the lifelong learning. That is what we have put in the program, the CHEP program. So what next for PTIT? We would like to do the occupational standard or competency framework. We have done this. We have starting to do this 2 years ago in qualification framework. We know that in the technician working in the industry, we can classify them into 3 categories. The category 1 is worker under the supervision, and the second one is the worker who work independently, and in the third one they work as supervisor. So our VCHEP program is the new entrance for the industry. They are in category 1.1. So their qualification framework for the knowledge, for the core knowledge in petroleum and petrochemical in the operation. They have skill to understand and measurement and use of measurement, some device for the attributes. They can follow the direction or order. They have discipline and human relation. So for the PICHEP program, they are in the third category, maybe the advanced, not an expert one. So that's what we share with you, our program, and what we have to do in the near future. We have start, but not finished yet, just start. So this is what PTIT would like to share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we are really running out of time, so we may not be able to take any questions because we do not really want to delay your lunch. I think the idea here was to get you the 3 different voices on how partnerships and a sustainable approach towards really dealing with the Tibet innovation skill sets can be formed. And you heard Sam speaking it and describing that in this whole challenge of where we don't even know which skills will exist, which jobs will exist, right? The value of new skill sets like problem solving, social intelligence, all these are growing so fast. And how do we teach it? How do we bring it in our ecosystem? That is a big question, and that requires a unique partnership approaches with multiple stakeholders coming together. I would encourage you to catch hold of all our distinguished guests over a lunch and ask your questions, if any. And thank you so much for giving us very patient hearing. Thank you.
Most welcome. Thank you very much to Mr. Chair. And for the token of appreciation, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Dato' Sulaiman Wak, the Institute of Teachers Education, Malaysia, to present this token of appreciation to speakers and also to our chairs. Please welcome Mr. Sam Haggard to receive this special souvenir. Ms. Ishita Joshi, please. And Mrs. Prompai Nutrvajaj from Thailand. And of course, to our chair, please welcome Mr. Anshul Sonak to receive this special mementos. Thank you very much to Yang Berbahagia Dato' for the token ceremony. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have ended our plenary session 2, and of course, thank you